Any dollar implications of the US going it alone?
Well, I think now that we've seen these developments overnight, removing the immediate risk of action, that's likely to see some stabilization in risk markets, and that's likely to feed through into the dollar. So we could see the dollar just pausing its recovery trend for the time being. So over the coming days, I would expect a slight pause in the recent recovery trend, particularly against the emerging market currencies. But I think longer term, we still need to look at the dollar as being probably the outperformer amongst the G10. And when we look at the underlying drivers, the fundamentals, particularly in the US, and remember this was the initial driving force for the dollar recovery, that still very much remains in place. So we still need to keep a very close eye on the incoming US data over the course of the coming week.
People were starting to talk about a pricing out of a September taper. We then have the US GDP revision yesterday. Has that changed things? Are you pricing out this taper?
I think as far as the incoming data is concerned, I think it is still very much consistent with the Fed moving towards a tapering of QE, which is going to, I think, provide this underlying support for the dollar going forward. So I think the dollar recovery trend remains in place, although we may see this pause over the course of the next few days. But I think that's going to provide a renewed buying opportunity, particularly against some of the currencies which have been used as a traditional safe haven in recent weeks, particularly in the G10. So I would be looking very much at the Japanese yen and the Swiss franc as coming back under pressure within this environment. So I'll be looking for dollar yen and dollar Swiss to move higher once again.
A little bit of a respite for some of the emerging market currencies, but what is the outlook for the Indonesian rupiah, for the real, for the Turkish lira? What are you saying now over the next few months?
Yes, I think that we could well see a little bit of a stabilization following the recent sharp sell-offs, but I think the underlying fundamental picture, the driver for the initial moves, I think is still there, and that was very much comes down to the rising global yields, the rising US yields, and the rise in the US dollar. Those factors, I think, are still going to remain in place, and there's still going to be still going to weigh on those more vulnerable currencies within the emerging markets.